Hi kids, what we're doing here, I'm making a quick video showing you everything you need to do for the Duo Trio statistical test assignment. This requires you to use something called a very famous software called Python. It's a very advanced software, but it's also easy to use. I won't expose you to it, but it requires hard coding. That's very new to you, so I want to give you an overview of how it works. And so this is the assignment's right here, and we've got your student specific data here. So we're going to open this, and what you're going to do is you want to, so all your data here, I've got a different column containing the data for that you use for each student. What you want to do is you want to open an Excel file, and you're first going to make your own text file containing these data. So I opened Excel. I'm going to save in a folder. Let's just call this my data, and we're going to save it as a CSV file. That means it's a text file where the data are separated by columns. This is how most raw data sets are. All right. Then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to first select all of these columns, paste them there, and then I'm going to find the data that has my name. So here's my name, so I'm going to select these data, paste that there. These are the data that I'm then going to read into Python. Now I want to get rid of this top row because of what I've got here is now I've got a data set where the top row tells me the name of each column or each field, and then we have the data underneath it. Okay? And I remember I've saved this as my data as a CSV file, and then I'm going to read that into Python. Okay, now let's look at the Python. I'm going to get out of this, and then I want you to install Python using Anaconda Navigator. So this is very easy to do. There's tons of instructions on the internet how to do this. You can just Google install Anaconda Navigator. And there's lots of different places you can get it from. When you do download it, you can put this on a PC or a Mac. When you do download it, you're going to open it like this. We're going to open Anaconda Navigator. It can take it a while to open. One reason we're doing this is a lot of my students who go out into the real world and have to work with very large data sets, sometimes they have to use things like Python where you do hard coding. The easy canned software like Excel, Power BI can only do so much. Okay. When you open Anaconda Navigator, you're going to see a lot of different things here. We're going to be using Spyder. Spyder's just an development environment. It's a way to interact with Python. It's not Python itself. Python is a set of code. It's a set of algorithms. Spyder is just an interface in which you can give Python code and then get back the code. And it's going to look like this. Now, when you write your code, I'm going to go ahead and open up my code for it. I saved it as a Python file called Duo Trio Test. And so this is the code. Now what you're going to do, you're going to create a new file. You're going to name it as something. You can call it my P file. That's fine. And we want to save it as a Python file. And so when we do that, it's going to give it a py extension. All right. Now, these are all the code you need. It's not a lot of coding, but it is hard coding you use. And I'm going to briefly run through what all this is. Okay. So first, This just imports a set of algorithms that's in Python. Here you're telling it the path to your data. So remember, let's go back and find where I put these data. Remember, I called the data my data, and it's a CSV file. And notice it's in this path, which is the same path here, which is why I wrote that. Compare this to this. So I can just change this to my data, CSV. And so this is importing that CSV file, that data set. And then here I'm reading that data file into Python as a data set. So you can think of this as like a data set called data frame in Python. All right, let's go ahead and run some of this code. Let's just do some lines at a time and walk through what it is. These lines, we've talked about what that is. Normally I would press F9 to run just those lines, but I recently learned that stops the video recording software. So instead we'll come up here and choose this that says run selection. Now later you can run the whole file, all the code, just by clicking, I think this, yeah. But we're just going to run some line at a time. So I'm going to run that, and we can see over here that it did import. There's no errors or anything. Now I'm going to run this line of code to just tells it the path to my CSV file. And notice up here, this is like a variable explorer. It tells us there's this new string variable where the path is. Now let's see, using that path, we can read in a data set. We're going to run it. So notice it ran with no errors. Now up here, look, we have a data frame called DF. And when I click on that, well, look at that. That's our data. These are the data you're going to analyze. And it does add in a new column called index, because in every data set, you always have to have a column that has a unique value for each row. All right. First thing, what we're doing here, we take that big data set that had data for both white flour and whole wheat flour, and now we're making two different data sets. One that contains only white flour bread, and the other one that contains only whole wheat flour bread. We run that. It worked. Now look up here. Let's just take this one, the data frame for white bread, and it's only going to contain the observations where people tasted white bread. The other one, WW for whole wheat, is only going to contain whole wheat observations. Okay. Now, what these are, I'm going to let you explore these. We might talk about them in class, I don't know. But this is where we're actually calculating the test of the Duo Trio experiment to see if people can tell the difference between the white breads using different wheat varieties, and then also if they can tell the difference between whole wheat breads using different wheat varieties. Now first, notice I made a new data set here, DFUs, that contains only the white bread responses, because I'm first going to get the results just for white bread only. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to run these lines of code. Oh. Here's a little learning thing. So we ran into an error here. What do we do? Well, what I'm going to do is ChatGPT. Okay, so what I'm going to say, in Python, I encountered the following error. And then I'm going to come here, I'm going to select the error, and one thing, okay, after I read this a bit, ChatGPT told me exactly what the problem was. I didn't have this problem before, but now I do. So this variable in success, the number, and that's the number of times the people correctly identified which bread was different, which one was different in the Duo Trio test. it was 59, but it's 0.0, so it's treating the number not as an integer, but as something that can have decimals, whereas for this code to run for the binomial test, it needs to be an integer, and ChatGPT is going to tell me exactly what I can do to fix it. So now I just run these lines of code to make sure that it is an integer. So I'm going to add this, run these lines of code, and now I'm going to finish with these. Yep, and now it works. And so these are the results. So I'm asking it to print the statistic result, and that's it, 0.5 here. I'm asking it to print the p-value. That's it right here. Another place to see the results is just in this variable result. So here it has everything, the statistic, the p-value, everything. These are the numbers that you put into Canvas, and let me show you. So, okay, let me show you where we are here. When you go to give me your answers, submit your Duo Trio test here, and it's set up like a quiz. I'm not a student, so I can't take it, but I can do a preview. What you're going to do for white bread, and that is the one we just run because we said the data frame to use is the white bread. What was your test statistics? Percent of times the correct bread was identified. And that is 0.59. So I just put in 0.59. For white bread, what was your p-value? That's this number here. So I'll just put that. You can just use 2 decimal places if you want. So you could just do 0.08, 0.09. Then it wants to know for whole wheat bread, what was the test statistic. But now I have to go back, and now instead of just using the white bread responses, I'm going to use whole wheat. So now I'm calling this data frame. So I'm going to select all that line. I'm going to run those lines of code, and now we'll get different numbers. The test statistic is 65%, so 0.65. The p-value is this. There. And then here wants to know what are our conclusions. So for white bread, using a p-value threshold of 0.05, could subjects tell the difference between the 2 wheat varieties? So our p-value for the white bread was 0.08. That's greater than 0.05. So the answer is no. For wheat bread, using a p-value, could they tell the difference? Let's go up. So for wheat bread, my p-value was 0.003. That's less than 0.05. So the answer is yes. So I did that. I submitted the quiz. Of course, it doesn't know what the answers are, and so I'll have to go in and hand grade these. But that is all you need to do. Last thing, I just want to point out that once you have this code set up, you can run the code as a whole just by going here and clicking Run File, and it'll run everything. Okay, good luck. Let me know if you have any questions. Please work on this and then bring it in class when you have trouble. It's really hard to answer questions about this stuff over email, as you imagine you can imagine.